Well, hello you gorgeous mother truckers, you, and welcome to another video. A video that I have a feeling, usually I expect my videos to upset some people. This could upset a lot of people because it's going to be one of those ones where you're going to have to just listen, act like an adult and understand what I'm saying and why I'm saying it, and see where I'm coming from, and take some time to think about what I'm saying and understanding it. Now, you all know by now my feelings on immigration, and you all know by now how I feel about how things should be solved. But with the realisation that many people needs to come to, which is it's never going to stop. And it's never going to stop because when it all comes down to it, and in the cold light of day, you have to, if you take time to, which I'm hopefully going to be able to explain a little bit where I'm coming from this, it won't stop because we can't afford it to. I can already see I can already hear the keyboards are clattering, especially from my usual clientele and viewers. You see, back in the 60s, there was this sudden need for women's liberation and for them to go into the workplace. Then, it's not fair, they're being kept down. This is where your first bits of misogyny and, toxic masculinity originated. Now, before you start, if a woman wants to go to work, that's absolutely fine. I've got no problems with it, but you have to try and understand how we got to where we are. Now, when the women went into the workplace, the first thing it did was stagnate wages. But that was the whole point. It also reduced the birth rate. And that's where the problem is. It began to eliminate the birth rate. Our birth rate as a nation is horrendous. Our birth rate as a nation, I think it's about 1.5 children per couple. Statistically, it needs to be 2.1. Remember that 2.5 children? The nuclear family, mom, dad, and 2.5 children. Well, the reason it says 2.5 children is the fact that that's what's needed to replace the populace and allow it to grow. Okay? That's why it was 2.5 children. That's where it come from. That was the point of it. It's now 1.5. You see, one of the biggest existential threats to humanity is a low birth rate. And we're now beginning to see the effects of it. And the reason you're seeing the effects of it is there are more older people than there are younger people. And if there are more older people than younger people, there's not enough people working to pay taxes that pays for things like your retirement, your state pension, your NHS, all these things. So the money runs out. So the only way you can do that is if you are short of people, you have to bring people in. Be it by legal means or be it by illegal means. It's irrelevant because the population is collapsing, and it's all down to our own fault. It's all down to equality. That's going to upset some people. You see what I mean? This is going to upset people. So I've already basically said that women shouldn't be in the workplace. When in reality, I will change that to be more understandable and more modern, which is one parent should be at home be it male or be it female, doesn't matter. Somebody needs to be at home to look after the children that we desperately need. But unfortunately, of course, that's not what's happening. So that's why, as much as they jump up and down, scream and shout about stopping the boats and ending immigration, it ain't ever going to happen, because we need them, and we have been the architects of our own downfall. The next thing that you have to add into it, and you have to be realistic, is, and because apparently, due to a lot of people, I'm a Farage supporter. I'm also a thick knuckle dragger and all that sort of stuff. I'm no Farage supporter because it won't matter who you vote in. It's not going to change. They will pontificate and say they're going to do this, they're going to do that. But it ain't going to happen. And it's not going to happen because of the influence of the Fabian Society, for one, and for the fact that the current Labour government's civil service advisors are the same one that advised the Conservatives, and probably for some of them, the ones that advised the previous Labour government. And there is the fundamental problem. This is, when Trump says about draining the swamp. I know Jacob Rees-Mogg calls it the blob. But that's the problem. You see, when we vote, we're given the illusion of choice. You're now being given that they know that everybody hates immigration. So you've been given a party that will stand against it. And they will demonise Nigel Farage, but you've then got the outlet. So you'll all go, and we'll all go and vote Reform. Reform will come in, they will displace the Labour Party, Reform will take their position, and the people who are telling them about stuff are the same people, because the civil servants haven't changed. These are the people that actually run the country. When you vote for a politician, you're voting for a face that stands in front of the camera. All politicians know this. All politicians are therefore only really in it for the 4 or 5 years of their career, if it's allowed to last that long, so they amass as much money as they possibly can before they disappear, rich and happy. Meanwhile, us lot at the bottom continue to be ignored. You see, your example of this is when the Conservatives won with a massive landslide for Boris Johnson, it was because he was going to deliver Brexit. But the civil servants don't want Brexit, so it never happened. And now, of course, Brexit is the convenient excuse to blame all our woes on. And we will eventually go back into Europe. They're already talking about it, and it's going to happen. And this is where I've had a weekend sort of thinking about things. This is where I realised that what I do here is pointless. Because I will do videos like many others, and the message gets out slowly. For me, it goes nowhere because it's 600-700 views. That's it. And it doesn't matter if I do a video that gets 10 million views. It's not going to change anything, is it? And that's where you've got to get yourself to. Immigration is never going to stop, because we decided that we needed everybody in work. And once we got everybody in work, children became secondary. And if you're wondering about that, well, all you have to do is we go the burkas and the shirkas. Getting rid of the 2-child cap limit, that's wrong. But if you look, the working families are hardly having any children, 1.5. The shirkers and the burkers, 6, 7, 8 kids. You see, if both parents are working and if both parents are doing and going full guns, they're not having enough children. If they're unemployed, neither of you work, both of you are at home looking after the kids, but having kids because it's money, the birth rate goes up. That's the position we're in with that. So no matter how much we scream and shout and we don't want immigration, they're never going to stop it. Because in reality, as much as we would all like it to be like it was, with white Anglo-Saxon English people, if you do that, and you have to be realistic about this, is if you do what you want to do and deport anyone you think shouldn't be here, the country will collapse because we're not having enough kids. What are you going to do about that? You see, we can all pontificate and show justifiable anger about what's happening. But in reality, we aren't actually going to be able to survive without immigration. You see, if you want to do this, if you want this country to be as it was, then we're all going to have to start having lots and lots of children. Now, you see, in my situation, I'm the one that stays at home. We've had 7 children. And we brought them up, and they have all so far, I can't talk for the last 2, have been very successful in what they're doing. But that's because they've always had one parent at home, somebody to look after them, somebody to be there all the time, somebody to mentor them and look after them, not make them, what was it, the old term, latchkey kids. See, it can be done. But the problem is so many people get so focused because we've been told this, that you've got to both work and you've got to both do this. And the only way you can survive, the only way you can get your car, the only way you can get your house, the only way you can survive in society is if you're both working. But that doesn't leave time for children. That doesn't leave time for family life. So that's what gets sacrificed. And yes, you may have the big house. But you have the big house, you have a child, you'll probably only have 1, maybe 2 if you're lucky. Because then you look and go, shit, childcare is expensive. And then one of you's working just to keep your kid in childcare while you work. And then when you do that, you can't afford a second one or a third one. That's the problem. And it's a problem that no one wants to address. It's a problem that shatters the core of everything that we fight against. We want this country to be our country. And I've been saying it as well. We want this country to be the greatest country. We want it back to being England. It's never going to happen unless you address that issue. We need to be, every single couple needs to be having 2.5 children. And it's going to take a decade or 2 for that benefit to kick in. So even if you deport everyone, this country will collapse. And that's where the problem is. And you have to, I know some people are going to get really upset about this and angry, and I'm going to get called everything under the sun for it. Do I think we should have people here who don't want to be here? Of course not. But I also can see what the problem is. This video, me saying these points, probably will cost me subscribers. Will probably garner me a lot of hate. But Gobster Talks About Things is about me speaking from the heart. It's about how I see things. And it's took me a while to get here. And the realization that we're all to blame as well. Our eternal chasing for the buck. Our eternal need to have everything we want has led to our own downfall. And no one of our side really wants to address that problem. And it'd be interesting to see if anyone could come up with a solution. Unless, of course, we all get unemployed, and then the only thing we'll have left to do is to pop out kids. Any case, I will still keep doing my videos, probably now to a crowd of about 3. But we have to be realistic. We have to open our eyes and we have to pay attention. Because if we don't, and if we don't understand why we're where we are and the reason why things aren't going to change as quick as you all think it is and all want, we all want a peaceful, harmonious country. But that's never going to happen. And you know what the worst thing is? Even if you've got money, it doesn't matter where you go in the world. It's not going to change. We need to think of more radical ways of solving this problem. And maybe, just maybe, accepting the situation we're in, and instead of fighting against it, try and use it to our advantage. Any case, I'm done. If you agree with what I'm saying and you like what I'm doing, hit the subscribe button. I'm looking forward to a lot of people leaving after this one, but it is what it is. If you do subscribe, hit the bell. Ways to support the channel down below, including my links to my other social media. I did a post on X where I just said, no one listens, no one cares, nothing will change. 17 views. No one's listening. Nothing will change. You can like, you can share. I'm sure I'm going to get some interesting comments on this one. If you need to talk to me via an email, like, you can hit the gobstertalks@yahoo.com, the email that's popped up on the screen. And with that, I shall look forward to catching you in the next one. That's, of course, after this one, if there's anyone left to talk to. See you soon.